They may or may not be relevant.
Is brand awareness. So one, if the customer doesn't know you exist, how can they buy from you? So it's
Patric.
hello,
Hey,
everybody.
everybody.
How's it going? Marketing
What's going
Mondays
on?
96. Thank you, guys.
96. We're closing in on 100.
Yes, we are, little by little, as we slowly get these episodes out. We apologize for missing the last couple of weeks. We had some travel, some family stuff come up, so it's been a crazy end of Q1, and now here we are, first day of Q2. So we hope everybody's kind of kicking off, especially in the window film industry. It's kind of that time of year where things are rolling and things are getting going. So we wish all of you guys luck as that goes. And Patric, I'll let you kind of chime in here and say hello.
That's great. Real quick shout out to Cadeau and Eric from Tint Wiz. Hooked me up with a sweet hat. I like the black on black. It definitely just a little bit of the Tint Wiz purple over here, but I really love this hat. So anyway, shout out to those guys for hooking me up.
Yeah, I'll be waiting for mine, Eric. But yeah, so we wanted to kind of cover a few different topics that we've kind of been juggling around here. I think when I was in Austin, we kind of touched on something that I kind of wanted to roll in, at least kind of kick off today, was kind of understanding what's the data that we need to understand and know what is important data, because I think right now there's so much that's kind of being thrown at us to understand exactly what data is useful to, whether it's your small business, understanding your marketing, understanding whether it's your funnels working. And so there's a lot of different things to kind of understand. So we wanted to kind of touch on a couple different ones. I'll let you kick off. I know I had mentioned I was going to mention some social ones, but I was curious as far as within the SEO Google ad space, what are some key metrics that people should be looking at as far as on the back end of some of their advertising?
Sure. Great question. One of the things I would say, the first thing you need to really pay attention to is, understand what you're really looking at, because I'll give you a good example. If somebody shows you a Google ads report and it shows that you're getting a lot of clicks on your ads and things like that, but those clicks aren't relevant clicks, you may be distracted into thinking the ads are working because you're getting a lot of clicks, but you might be like, why am I not getting phone calls or things like that at the office, even though the numbers on the AdWords look great? Well, there's a chance that your ads are set up incorrectly or they're tracking the wrong thing, so that such that your ads can look like they're performing really well, but they're actually not achieving what you want them to. A good example of this is twice within the last 2 weeks, we've taken over managing somebody's AdWord accounts for them, and we went in and discovered that the targeting, as far as where they were targeting, was way off. And there's a setting within Google AdWords where you could target the area that you have defined, or you could target people that are interested in or in that area or are interested in. Well, the previous company had left it toggled into interested in. And in one of those situations, that was an area out near Mammoth Lakes and Mammoth Mountain in California. Well, a lot of people are interested in that because they go out there skiing or whatever the case may be, but those people don't live there, so they're never potential clients for this particular customer. But the way his AdWords were set up is he was pitching his ads to anybody that showed any interest in that area of California. So it's really important that you understand what the data is actually showing you and make sure it's showing you what you want to see. So if it's showing you that you've got this many clicks through to your website, make sure that those are relevant clicks first and foremost, because otherwise you could be wondering why your data looks like it's doing so well, but it's not showing up in reality in your business. So I would say one of the things is conversions or clicks, whatever you're trying to do with your AdWords. How well is it performing? How much are you paying per click? How much are you paying per conversion? And how does that relate to the cost of the job? So in other words, if you're selling a $279 tint job, but your cost per acquisition on a lead is $35, I don't know. Some people might feel like that's 12% or whatever, is it's out of whack with like how much they're spending for cost per acquisition. So you got to kind of understand what your average ticket is and how much you're spending to acquire a new customer. I always say to people, the rule of 10%, all your marketing combined, including what you're paying somebody to manage your marketing, what you're paying to Google, what you're paying to Meta, whatever the case may be, ideally should represent about 10% of your revenue. So if you're spending $10,000 in a month on marketing, but your revenue is $75,000, you're a little bit out of whack. I mean, $10,000 is probably appropriate for a company that's doing $100,000 in a month, but it's a little bit much for somebody that's doing $75,000 a month. So kind of use that as a rule of thumb. Like, what's your total marketing spend and what's your revenue? And if it's kind of relatively in sync, it should be about 10% of your revenue. That being said, I think I'm rambling on about a lot of different things, but the most important thing I think with AdWords is to make sure that all of the clicks that everything you're spending money on, whether it's Google, whether it's Meta, that you're actually spending it, targeting it on the people that you actually want to reach. Because far too often when I look at campaigns, I find out that people are spending money to reach people / places that they don't even really want to reach.
No, I think that's all excellent advice. I think we've talked about it a lot, but I understanding a fraction of the Google AdWords. I think if somebody who's running a business, if you're not doing them, try to like we've mentioned this every time, learning a little bit about each thing. Even me, I'm going through I'm watching a lot of YouTube videos just on new tactics. Every year there's a new version, whether it's within the marketing sector of WordPress. I know that's one of the things I've looked at too, but then there's also just the integrations and the different versions of Google AdWords. Like, I thought the 2024 was what I've been looking at, but it's actually 23. So there's already been an updated version of the 2024 Google AdWords. So it's keeping up with everything is hard. And that's why we're here to kind of offer hopefully answers to some of your questions, or at least kind of lead you down a path to discover your own, because there's so much to this.
It's hard even if you do it every day. I mean, to give yourself a little bit of grace, we do this every single day and we still have to do a lot to stay on top of what's actually happening. And again, as I mentioned, both these companies I'm talking about that we started managing their Google AdWords within the last 2 weeks, both of them came from agency management, and both of their ad campaigns did not have that specific thing toggled to the right point to where they were spending a lot of money. So even an agency in this case was making a mistake on how they set it up. And this is not to bash any other agency or anything like that, just to say that it is complicated. I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces in the back of these ads, and it's easy to make a mistake and miss a certain setting. So it's always worthwhile to check and to double check to make sure that whatever data you're getting, it's relevant data, because otherwise, if you're trying to use data to make decisions about how to run your business, how much money to spend, things like that, but you're basing it on data that's not accurate or it's faulty, you're just going to be, exponentially expanding your mistake. You may think something's working, but it's actually not working the way you think it is. So now you put more money into it, and now you're just wasting money faster. So it's critical to understand whether you're doing it yourself or you're working with an agency, any agency should be willing to dive into the numbers with you, explain what they are in a logical way. If they're acting like there's some mystery or some secret sauce that, you wouldn't understand, that's probably a good sign to maybe be looking somewhere else. Because the reality is, I want my clients and I want iMagnet's clients to understand what we're doing, because if they understand what we're doing, it actually proves the value that we're bringing. I don't want to do anything behind a curtain and act like there's something secret. I want them to understand everything we're doing, but understand that we're better positioned to do it than them trying to do it themselves. But anybody that's trying to make it seem like they don't want to really go through it with you because you wouldn't explain it or anything like that, huge red flag. And it'd be a reason I maybe would be looking elsewhere if you're working with a company like that.
Absolutely. I think the other one that I wanted to mention, and you briefly touched on it as far as data goes, is understanding social media data. And it's another spot that you're going to possibly be putting money and ad dollars behind. And so I think I was sitting here, I was going to try to screenshot some stuff, but I can probably do that for next time. But if you have a business account, whether it's actually, I think these metrics kind of work across the board of understanding like reach and impression. Like if you're swiping and you're just not paying attention and you're just kind of swiping by, whether it's a customer or not a customer, excuse me, a business, their ad might have gone by and that reached you, but it didn't make an impression. Like you didn't stop on it. You didn't look at it. We've talked about the thumb pause before. And so reach is just meaning like it goes by. And these are things I was going to show the Instagram.
Well, and impressions are another thing as well. Impressions mean that it's actually come across somebody's feed, shown up in their Google search, something like that, that it made an impression. Reach is the unique people that it's, so a lot of times you'll see, let's just say for sake of argument, 1,000 impressions and 650 people reached. What that means is that 650 people actually saw the ad. Some of them saw it twice. So your impressions were 1,000 and your reach was 650. So if you want to think about it as reach is the individually unique people that have seen it, impressions, somebody might have looked at it 5 times and they will show up all 5 times in impressions. They will only show up once in reach.
No, so thank you for fully explaining it. That's on me for not, I under that, because to me, as soon as you mentioned it, it reminded me of whether it's like a website, page views versus, like you mentioned, the unique visitors. So that makes total sense. And that was leading me to
somebody, just so you know, if you look at the back end of your website, if it says 10,000 page views, but it says, but what you're, so if somebody comes to your website and they visit 5 pages on your website, that will show up as 5 page views, but it's one visit. It's one website visit. So it's important to understand what these terms mean so that, again, when you're looking at the data, you don't mistake page views for being website visits. If I come to your website and I visit 10 pages, that's 10 page views, but it's still only one visit. So, it depends. Both of those are important. If somebody comes to your website and they visit 5 pages, that's a great metric. That's a really strong signal that your website is engaging and it's navigating well and the user experience as well. So even that showing that your page visits are 5x what the visits are is a good metric. It means that people are on average seeing 5 pages for every visit they come to. It's a great metric to track. You just need to make sure you understand what you're looking at so you don't mistake one metric for another.
No, I see we got a question here. I'll just wrap up my thought quick because I was going to say the next and probably the most important metric to think about within social media is engagement. And that means that whether somebody clicked the like or made a comment or shared it, those are the things that you want your content to, what you want to happen to your content. You want somebody to share it with a friend. You want somebody to comment on it and say, hey, I disagree with this, even if it's because the algorithm is going to pick up on the fact that somebody is commenting on this. So it may put it out to somebody who may dislike this, but is known to comment on things. So it's a way to generate attention that the algorithm is going to notice is based on the engagement that the post kind of provides. So, but exactly. we did get a question here. Where should I advertise? I'm starting a mobile window tinting training, mobile anywhere in the United States, set up shop. And there's also a YouTube documentary of my journey. What do you guys think? For me, we've mentioned this before. If you're bringing value, I think there's definitely a platform within social media to kind of generate attention or views. If you're trying to set up training, I think showing what you're doing and then and sending it to people who would be interested in finding out more information about it. So yes, I definitely think any type of content that you would provide would be beneficial to your business.
I think that, if you're doing training, I agree. Content that show the actual techniques and training, to a certain extent. I mean, I think you could use Gary Vaynerchuk as a great example of somebody that gives away a lot of knowledge, but because of that, people are drawn to him to like get more knowledge or to work with them. So I would say show people the content on your YouTube channel and things like that of your journey, but I'd also show them some of the things that you teach, because again, there's nothing that is going to take the place of hands-on, somebody standing next to you teaching you. And again, there's so many videos out of people showing techniques and things like that. You're not necessarily going to, again, same thing I said about us, not with the secret sauce or behind the curtain. I would try to show people what, benefits they get from having you come out to their shop directly, maybe get some testimonials, and I would put those out on channels where, again, if you put stuff out on the Window Film Pros channel, you might not get a lot of uptake because those people already have tint businesses. But you know, something like Matt Blackmer's channel or something like that, where there's a lot of new people that are getting into the business, that might be a better channel to put something like that. But it's a little bit tough because you're trying to advertise a window tint training. And again, if you do it to the general public, I would guess that your click-through rate or your conversion rate's not going to be that high. So you got to kind of figure out how to fish from a pond that's a little bit more stocked, if you will. And again, window tint stuff, Matt Blackford's channel, that's a public channel. There's a lot of people that are just getting into the business on that channel or on that group that are like looking for tips and things like that. That might be a really great channel to potentially put something out there in, because those people are new and they're looking potentially to get better, get trained. Where Window Film Pros, maybe you got people that are a little bit more experienced and aren't really looking for training. So
Yeah,
anyway, just a little
I
bit
was
of
just gonna say
insight.
too, finding collaborations with different people too, that helps get your name out there with another. If you have a guest presenter that can come on and show different trainers from different companies, show if
The
they
big
come
thing
in and want
too,
to show their film and whatnot. So
yeah, the big thing too, I would say is, highlight the things that make you different. There's a lot of companies out there doing training right now. Whether it's, a day, a couple days, a week, whatever. I mean, you really got to like sell people on the differentiation. I mean, obviously, the table stakes, if you will, are that you qualified trainer. The question I would have if I were considering is, what makes you different than the other 10 people that are training? So tell me that story. Tell me what makes you different. Tell me how you do it might lead to me the uptake of information on my end be faster and be able to start doing sellable jobs quicker. Tell me why I should go with you versus, because there's a lot of people that are training now, both manufacturers and individuals. So tell me the story of why I should use you versus one of them. That's
yep.
where I would probably go with it.
No, I think you nailed it. So I guess I don't see any other questions right now, but I know you went on a West Coast trip last week, and so I talked to a lot of our clients and just a lot of other business owners. So I'm kind of curious to know what trends or themes you kind of took away from the last week.
Well, a couple different things I think that are going on. I think, on the automotive side of the business, I would say that I'm feeling like, I wouldn't say that it's soft, but I would say that it's not going through the roof right now. So I'm hearing from a lot of people that things, and a lot of that I think is we were in a little bit of, heady atmosphere, if you will, during the COVID days when money was flowing and people sort of started to recalculate and think that was normal. And what I always try to talk to people when we're having these conversations to say, let's go back to 2018 and 2019 and see what a normal January, a normal February looked like for you, because you can't really look at, the COVID January and assume that that's going to be how it is. So that's one thing. I think inflation's having a little bit of impact. I do think that commercial work, specifically decorative commercial work, safety, security, a lot of school work still being done out there right now is still happening. So seeing a lot of that. as far as marketing goes, I feel like, it never really goes out of vogue, but I think that you really have to do a little bit more storytelling with what you're doing. I think, any posts you could do that really reach out to people in a way that really brings them in and engages with them versus just like, hey, we're having a 10% off sale. Those posts don't really work anymore. You really kind of have to bring somebody in and figure out a way to have, somebody engage with your business or at least be pulled in to be interested. I feel like there's so many people running sales and so much spam on Meta and all those platforms anymore that if all you're doing is adding to that spam, you're just going to be overlooked. So, think about the creative you're using, whether it's a graphic or whether it's a picture. Think of how compelling that piece of creative is. Think about what the first sentence of your copy is. Does the first sentence of your copy make somebody want to stop and read the rest of your copy? If your copy starts slow, like you're starting a paragraph in a book, you're dead. Nobody is going to read the third sentence if you haven't grabbed their attention in the first sentence. You need to grab their attention in the first sentence in order to even have a chance that they're going to read the third sentence. So, first sentence of your copy and how compelling is your creative or your graphic or your picture. Those two things have got to be on point or you're just going to get lost in the noise out there right now.
No, that's interesting that you mentioned that. I came across, and I apologize for not knowing the creator that did it. He's a very similar tint trainer, but he made the comment about if you're just posting post work photos or like work that you've already done and completed, chances are you're not going to grow. People need to watch your process. And I think kind of goes along with what you were saying too, is people are now attracted to the personality of the character of whoever is on the screen that they're watching. I'm sure everybody that's watching this, you have people that show up on your feed quite a bit, whether it's you follow them or you just keep liking their stuff and you haven't followed. I know for me, I'll drop one. SB Mowing. I'm sure everybody has seen the dude who does the lawn mowing stuff, and he always mentions, hey, put a follow in. And it's because of his like kind gestures that he's doing. I'm like, okay, this is cool. I like that he's going out here, like kind of doing this for free. But for whatever reason, I just haven't followed. But I see a lot of his stuff because I'm constantly liking it. So,
well, and I think that, that's the other thing to think about in your algorithm as you watch stuff. So as you get one really great piece of creative and people watch it all the way through, they stay and watch it, your likelihood that they will see another piece of your marketing and another post increases. If you're putting out content and everybody's skipping right by it, Facebook Meta starts to show it to fewer people because people don't seem to be responding to it. So it's like a death spiral, if you will. If you get in a situation where nobody's interacting with your content, fewer and fewer and fewer people start to see it. Likewise, in the other direction, if people start to interact with your content, more and more and more people are going to see it. So,
off of that, I was going to say too, the thing that sometimes gets me is as I'm in that death spiral, I'll keep putting out content and yet it's not going out. So the times I've noticed where I get that spike is I've taken a break. I've taken a few days off. I've kind of let the algorithm reset and then I try something new and different. And then usually I get a lot more views, but then it's kind of that same progression back down. So it's figuring out a pattern and understanding what's going on, watching the metrics and being like, okay, rather than just throwing it up, not looking at the views, not paying attention, just being like, all right, checking the box, I've put content out. I think it's understanding what the content is doing is key. And then realizing, oh, this works. I should try this in this fashion again. And so we've talked about A/B testing.
Yeah, it depends on what you're trying to achieve too. Like sometimes people put the posts out on social media. We do this for people. But the real core of what we're doing is we're adding content to their website to help the SEO on their website. And then we just happen to be sharing it to social media. So everything isn't hinged on the social media post because there's a lot of value on the SEO side of it on the back end. But if you're really counting on your social media to be a cornerstone of what you're doing and really bringing value, then you've really got to be careful, like that you're not just putting out stuff that nobody's paying attention to, because you're digging yourself a bigger and bigger hole that's going to, mean that you're not going to get seen by as many people. I was going to say something also that I kind of forgot, but the reality is that, I think that there's so much noise out there right now that you just can't afford to like mail it in and just put something out there that's not, the picture's horrible. You haven't spent any time thinking about the copy, or the copy doesn't even read right. You just threw something out there. I would recommend, as bad as this is to say for somebody in the market, if you're going to do that, don't post at all. You're probably better off not posting at all than to do it that way, because you're actually putting yourself in a worse position by doing that.
Yeah, it might put a bad taste in some people's mouth.
Yep.
We got a question here. I know we're close to the end here, but I think this is a good one. Are hashtags still better to have than not to have in a post?
Go ahead if you want to take it first.
I was going to say it depends. I know in the past, we, including myself, probably way overused hashtags when we had the ability to put like 30 of them in. But I think right now they're still useful, but I think they're not as important as they used to be. The one thing, it's the SEO within your content and text, like you mentioned, it's catching somebody with that. Because usually if you're looking at posts on social media, you're only seeing that first line. So making sure, like you said, having that first sentence being a powerhouse grabber that's going to get people to hit the more button, see what else is saying. And yes, there'll be hashtags at the bottom. I would limit them to 3 to 5. I wouldn't do any more.
Well, and here's the thing too, right before the one of the things I wanted to say, a lot of people don't understand that even if somebody doesn't click on your post, even if they don't click on your picture, even if they don't click the read more to see all of the rest of your text, if they slow down in their feed and hover over your post, that registers with Meta that it was engaging. So if your first sentence grabs their attention, if your image or your graphic grabbed their attention, even if they don't click, it still was beneficial to you because it showed the algorithm that people were interested in what you posted. So those two things are critical. Even if somebody doesn't click, even if that, because I know there's times I've just kind of read something and looked at the graphic for 10 seconds and then scrolled on. And then all of a sudden I start seeing more content about that. And I didn't even click on anything, but it registered the fact that I spent a little bit of extra time there. And now I'm starting to see more of their content. So
yeah, I have as soon as you were saying that, it popped another idea came into my head, and it's different than hashtags completely, but it goes along with what you're saying as far as catching somebody's eye. And I know everybody kind of, if you're on YouTube, you know of Mr. Beast, and he's made a point of saying like 80% of his creative process is making sure that the thumbnail that catches somebody's eye is like, that's the most important part of his content. He might put down $2 million to explode a Lamborghini, but he's so much more worried about the thumbnail, because when somebody's scrolling through, they're going to see him or his face or something. And I've known
think about that. Think about what you said. 80% of the effort that Mr. Beast puts in is choosing the right thumbnail.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an incredible thing. I mean,
yeah,
to just think that.
Yeah, he goes through like 100 different thumbnails for one video and tries to make sure that this is something that's going to catch someone's eye, that they're going to pause, read the caption, and then maybe click and watch it. So I think there's a lot that goes into what people are seeing, and understand what people are seeing, whether it's just your image, how is it shot, how is it taken, and then like you said, that first line of text has to be on point. Otherwise, people are going to scroll right by you.
Well, to answer the hashtag question, and I think we're going to be right at running out of time, I think hashtags are still relevant. I think you want to get away from that over hashtagging. Think 3 to 5 hashtags. If you want a number, some people like to have a number. Try to be thinking maybe 3 to 5. Maybe if it's super relevant, maybe delve into the 6 or 7, but then you're even getting into the high end of things. So the days of putting 30 hashtags are over. I mean, stop doing that. The other thing you could try doing is, a lot of people put their hashtags in the first comment. So they won't clutter up their posts with hashtags, but they'll put the hashtags in the first comment. That will also work to get you any benefit you'd be getting from hashtags. You also would get from it if they're in the first comment. So a lot of people do that. In fact, the program we use for a lot of our clients allows us to actually put hashtags in the first comment automatically. So when it does the post, it puts the hashtags in the first comment. So that's another thing to think. But ideally, you want to have hashtags that are really on point, that are really specific to the post, number one. So just not a bunch of generic hashtags that are around the topic. It's very specific to the post. And you want to be thinking 3 to 5. And if you really feel the need, maybe 6 or 7, but that would be a rare occasion. Try to keep it to 3 to 5.
Yep. Well, we'll wrap up here, I think. And I was going to mention this at the top of the show. I think this 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 Central is going to be our time slot. It seems to work out well. We've had a lot of good conversations in the comments. So we definitely appreciate everybody that's here talking. Hopefully you guys connect within the comments, find people and engage and brainstorm different ideas. So I'm glad to see that people are chatting there and have been responsive and asking questions. So thank everybody.
As always, too, when you guys are watching us, just jump right into the comments and throw a question in, just like we did today. Always happy to jump right in. Even if we have to deviate a little bit from our plan, we're happy to jump in and deviate from our plan to answer your question. So we kind of come into each one of these sessions with a plan of what we want to talk about, but we're totally fine with getting that derailed to answer your questions. So never hesitate to ask a question, even if it isn't relevant to what we're talking about. We're happy to jump over.
We like derailments here. So
yep, exactly.
We appreciate all you guys showing up, and we will see you guys next time. Thank you.
See ya. Thanks again, Tint Wiz, for the hat.